Hello, hello.
Oh, hello. It's only you and me. Oh, okay.
Looks like there's
Oh,
going to be a few more people. And actually, we're streaming this live on LinkedIn. So I will say that, since we're streaming it live, we'll just ask everyone to mute themselves for the purposes of the recording and that kind of thing. So what I will do at the very end for those of you that are on the Zoom call is if you want to stay on and if you have any questions or want to interact, very welcome to. Um, and so for the rest of us, we're streaming this on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So if you want to refer to this workshop again, you can go on one of those platforms. But welcome to those of you that are live with me today in the Zoom room. And I won't really be answering any questions if you're on the LinkedIn channel. It is somewhat new to me to be triple timing, let's say, doing it on multiple platforms. So those of you that are in the Zoom room, again, after the 30-minute class, if you have questions, I'll be here. So welcome. Right. Well, we're going to get started. Well, I appreciate that you're here, all of you who have signed up, who have devoted this time. And even if you're watching the recording after, I know how everything these days vies for our attention. And it even brings us to the reason we might be here for empathetic communication is we want these authentic, real, supportive, compassionate interactions with those around us. And so my experience with empathetic communication is that I was trained in nonviolent communication through a couple different training programs. And I found that learning this language of emotions and language of needs was transforming my relationships. It was giving my relationships a much needed boost of clarity. And even the way that I understood my own needs and making decisions better using an informed view of my needs, it just made things more smooth. And I know that you can use this in your personal life, you can use this on your own and with your colleagues. So to briefly introduce myself, I'm Marla Pelletier. I own Inward Office as well as teach mindfulness, meditation, and sometimes some yoga. We have a team of instructors here in Rochester, New York, where we're based that teach virtually like this class, and we teach in person. So we have a number of clients here that are all organizations. As a part of their wellness program, we come in and teach fitness classes, meditation, and yoga. And so at the end, I'll give you a little information if you're curious about our programming. I am going to share a PowerPoint. Let's see. All right. All right. So a little bit about our company. We were established in 2006 and have been helping organizations all over the country with our programs. This is a part of a 3-series program. We had the first class on meditation, a meditation on empathy and compassion. And you can get the recording. If you've signed up on our site, we're going to give the recordings of all 3 of these classes to anybody that signs up for any of the 3 classes. And so the website for that is inwardoffice.com/free class. And again, if you sign up for any of them, you'll get all 3 recordings. Let's just take a moment together to arrive here. So for many of us, we're probably sitting in the exact same seat that we were working in all morning. And so what I'd like you to do is consciously choose how you're sitting. So maybe you get up and you sit back down again. Maybe you orient yourself towards a window. Perhaps you turn down the lights or close a door. And then take a moment to place the feet on the ground or sit cross-legged. Observe how you're sitting, orienting the crown of the head over the shoulders and shoulders over the hips, and lay the hands down comfortably. And I highly recommend that you push a little bit away from your desk. When you kind of come into your own posture and you stay away from the pitching and orienting we do towards the computer, you may be able to pay attention a little bit more to what's going on inside of you. And then pay attention to a sensation that you notice in the body. Any sensation, could be heavy, light, tingly, sharp. And then take 3 conscious breaths. Now bring awareness to any sound in your environment. And then shift attention to 3 conscious breaths. And by conscious, I mean we're fully paying attention to breathing in and breathing out. And since today's focus is on empathetic communication, bring one hand to the heart or to the belly. And take 3 big breaths in, imagining that that breath moves into the space you're touching. And then ask yourself in this very brief pause that we did anything change? Did the mind shift, the energy, the emotions? Sometimes all it takes is a brief few minutes to refuel. Okay? Great. So then gently opening the eyes, reorienting to your room. Again, let's keep that space between the computer and yourself. And maybe that'll help minimize any distractions. You can use this time to rest your eyes. You can use this time to shift where your body is, not sitting in the same seat, as we talk a little bit about empathetic communication. And so these ideas that I'm going to present to you are really a chance for you to play around with a new concept. Ultimately, when we present ideas inward office, they are meant to support you. And sometimes we have to play in these workshops like it's a laboratory. We dive right in, we try it, we see if it works, we take it back home, we see if it works, and then we use it or don't use it. So there's no one size fits all approach in in the way that we teach. It's really about, well, this is all a laboratory and we're creating the conditions to fully experiment. The other thing to know about our program, this one and all of them that we do, is that we recognize humanness. That of course, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, we're all simply trying. And so if I make an error, if you make an error, there is no judgment here. We're just all trying to grow on the path that we've chosen. Okay. And our goal for our workshop series is really just to reawaken this innate ability for empathy that we all have had since we were children. And what we're doing now is reawakening that through skills training. And the case for empathy at work here is that what Gallup has found from a 2022 survey of 15,000 employees is that many employees during that great resignation that happened left situations where there was a lack of empathy from their managers. And we find that workplaces that have more empathy actually have higher retention and support their employees a little bit better. So this program is built on nonviolent communication, a phrase, a title that was coined by Marshall Rosenberg. And if you want to go further in these studies, I highly recommend his book. It is and it is called Nonviolent Communication. And this process helps support any partnerships you have, any conflict you've witnessed. Marshall Rosenberg was a clinical psychologist, and he was born in the 30s, I believe. And he was alive in Detroit during the race riots. And as a small child who was Jewish in the inner city, he encountered much racism and much violence as well. And so he asked this question that clearly he carried through his work. What empowers us to stay connected to our compassionate nature, even in the worst circumstances? How do we stay compassionate in the worst circumstances? And he demonstrated this was possible. Using NVC was possible to resolve political border conflicts. It was possible to resolve gang-related conflicts, generational conflicts, and even conflicts in families and workplaces. And he demonstrated that by flying around the world and working in Nigeria, Israel, Rwanda, all over the world. So it's a beautiful system. Now let's dive right in to what is nonviolent communication. What are the component pieces? And this is a process that does take some time to fully understand. First, we start with an observation. Then we add on a feeling, an I statement. Third, we identify a need that we have in ourselves or in others. And then at the end, we either show compassion to ourselves or others, or we make a request or create a strategy. So the parts that we will be going through during this class and the third part is the observation, feeling, and needs. I think we could easily spend 40 hours doing all of these, but since I have 30 minutes today and 30 minutes next time, we're going to just go over a few of the parts. So empathy, to get us all on the same page, is this ability to understand what somebody is experiencing, really by diving right into their experience, okay, by sharing in it. And so what we're doing here is we're suspending our need to evaluate if it's right or wrong. Okay, what we're trying to do is simply identify what's going on with them and then be there with them. So this is different than compassion, and it's different than sympathy. So sympathy holds us a little distance from what that other person is going through. Compassion has this desire for healing. It has a wish component, almost like a prayer. And so there are slight differences between these three things. You may notice colloquially, we all use them somewhat interchangeably. All right, so the first part of NVC and how we might use it is when we're in an interaction with someone, we want to start with an observation. Okay, so this first component, we're having a potential conflict. We want to start with an observation that everybody can agree on. So let's take a look at these three statements and see which is a judgment and which is an observation. The judgment means we're putting a layer of right or wrong, good or bad on. So number one is George is a terrible tennis player. George has lost every match this year. For yourself, answer which is a statement of observation and which is a judgment. Okay, so to give you the answer, George is a terrible tennis player is a judgment. George lost every match this year is an observation. Okay, the second one, your dirty clothes are on the floor. Your room is disgusting. Which one's a judgment? Which one's an observation? So the observation is your dirty clothes are on the floor. Right? The last one, our boss is such a gossip. I shared a private health issue I was going through, and he shared this with a client. Our boss is such a gossip is a judgment. All right. So as you're refining the skill, maybe the next time you make a statement in the midst of some conflict, start with an observation. What do I notice? So let's do a little exercise. Make a judgment into an observation. The first one is, you're a jerk for keeping me awake at night. You're a jerk for keeping me awake last night. If that's a judgment, what would be a new phrase we could use that would be an observation? You can answer it for yourself, of course, here. And as a reminder, I'm not going to be checking the chats on the various platforms because of my own lack of ability to multitask here. So here, something we could say that would be an observation is, I noticed that the TV was on until 3 a.m. I was woken up to very loud noises at 2 and 2:30 and 3 o'clock. I was awake for a prolonged period of time. Okay, all of those were observations. Number 2 here is, I feel like I am married to a brick wall. I feel like I am married to a brick wall. This is a judgment. Let's make it into an observation. Answer it for yourself in your head. All right, and so an observation that we could have here is, yesterday I shared a terrible experience that I had at work. I really wanted you to listen and spend time with me. You looked at me and walked away. Today, when I called you to talk about it, you ignored the call, and then the next phone call went straight to voicemail. Okay, and so this judgment is now turned into an observation. So remember, an observation is fact-based. It's something that multiple people could agree on. So if you're trying to do this in your conflict, you might say, I noticed that when I see, when I hear. Okay, as an example, at 8 p.m. when I arrived home from work, I noticed the dishes were in the sink and the laundry was wet in the washer. That is an observation, right? It has very specific indicators. At 8 p.m., I arrived home. This is what I saw. If I were to take that observation and create it into a judgment, I might say, you're lazy for not doing the chores that you said you would do today. Right? And maybe that person didn't understand those chores were necessary. Maybe the miscommunication happened earlier, right? So we get a lot out of simply starting with an observation. So that is the first component, as I mentioned. Now we're going to go right into feelings. And feelings, this could take the whole 30 minutes. It could take the whole day to talk about, because it's my belief that a lot of us do not have a language of emotions right at our fingertips. We basically think we're either happy, mad, sad, or maybe exhausted. So what we want to do is expand this notion of what feelings are we feeling right now? So ask yourself, what feeling do I feel right now? One way to investigate this is to go into a body sensation. Notice the sensation of the body and then ask yourself, what feeling is there? Because in a few different disciplines, Bessel van der Kolk's book on PTSD, The Body Keeps Score, that's the name of it. And in mindfulness studies, there is a close correlation of emotions and body sensation. And so that's something you can just take with you and investigate for yourself. Is that true? Now, if you can take a screenshot of this, that would be great. These are a bunch of the positive feelings that we experience any given time. And you can see the phrasing at the top is that the needs are met. Okay, so positive feelings. You can take a screenshot, go ahead. Otherwise, you can reach out to me to get this in a PDF form. So my email is marla@inwardoffice.com. And then we have feelings that are unmet. Again, feel free to take a screenshot. Feelings that are unmet fall under the negative feeling category. And what NVC believes, we do have the needs here, but we're not going to go into needs till next time. These are universal needs that any person can experience at any time in varying levels. Feelings are universal, and they point to a deeper need being met or unmet. Okay. And the big thing about MVC is that we take personal responsibility of our own emotions, of our feelings. We take personal responsibility of whatever we're feeling. What others do can stimulate a feeling inside of us, but it is not the origin. We are the origin of the feelings. That's why maybe you and 3 friends could stand in a room and someone could do something and you could have 3 different reactions and 3 different feelings about that, right? Someone in my family is hard of hearing. And so if something gets too loud, this person reacts very strongly because they don't like the loud noise, right? Another person might be like, oh, that's fun, let's be loud, right? We all have different life experiences that lead to feelings. And when we have a stronger connection and even a bigger language of emotion, we can really have a deeper understanding of what's going on with us and what's going on with others. So in this process, we really want to first foster this communication internally. What feeling am I feeling? This experience is giving me what kind of feeling? And that acquaints us to the language of emotions. Next, we bring this out to our community and interactions, right? And so the 2 points at the bottom here, one is that sometimes we over-identify with our feelings. And here we want to be careful not to be frustrated, but to feel frustrated. So we don't say, I am frustrated. We say, I feel frustrated. Feelings change, emotions change. You may notice that. And even if you haven't checked out the initial meditation that we did, it may give you a clue into how things shift internally when we start to get quiet and notice. So answer for yourself here. Hopefully you took a screenshot of some of that larger language of emotions. Answer for yourself here. What could the lady marked with a number 1 be feeling? Surprised, bewildered, stunned. And then ask yourself what number 5 could be feeling. Just brainstorming, look at that list. Wary, tired, annoyed, frazzled, bored, in disbelief. What could she be feeling? And you can play this game with number 2, 3, and 4 as well. But this is a first step in identifying other people's emotions. So you might go through your day taking these tools and putting them into action. You might go through your day today, tomorrow, and ask yourself at regular intervals with your feelings list, what am I feeling? And just start to define using that list like a map. What is going on with me? And then in your head internally, second step is to begin to identify the other people around you. What are they feeling? And you can do this inside. I highly recommend starting doing it inside at first. And then the third step would be actually speaking it aloud to another person. So as I said, it's a long process, but it is so valuable to increase this language of emotions. And so when you put feelings into practice, you may want to use the phrase, "Are you feeling?" if you're bringing it into your relationships. Using it on yourself, use the language, "I feel." And if you're really committed to this practice too, you can go into the body during a quiet time, during meditation, when you notice something strong stirring in you. Notice the body sensation that's there and begin identifying where it is, how it feels, and then go a little deeper and see if there's an emotion under it. See if there's an emotion. And then the last point here is we can use NVC, nonviolent communication, to recognize someone else's emotions, but it's best to start with us. So that first step is using the emotion list, the identification of emotions on yourself. And the second is to speak it aloud, think it first with another. And then third is to speak it aloud with another. All right. And then I wanted to share these last couple examples of how NVC can transform the way we communicate. So these are real life examples of my household. So I'm a mom of 5 kids. My husband and I moved into a new house last year, and we're getting used to using air conditioners, and kids are getting older and they're wanting to stay up later. So these are recent things that I've experienced. Stop turning off the air conditioning. I hate a hot bedroom. Okay, so my husband told me that because I turned off the air conditioner in the bedroom, right? And my NVC response could have been this, right? Of course, it wasn't perfect because we're all learning. So I started with an observation. I noticed our energy bill was higher than last month. I also noticed that if I turn on the air conditioning in our bedroom, it only takes about 5 minutes to cool down. I like being frugal and conservative with our energy bill. So that we can save at $2, would you be willing to turn it on when you arrive home? I'll only turn it off when I leave the house. So you can see there's an observation. I like being frugal. I guess I could have done a better job with stating the feelings, but I didn't really have a strong feeling. I had a need in there to be frugal and conservative. And then I made a request or came up with a strategy. And our second one is, it's a dumb idea to let the kids stay up late, right? It's a reaction. It's a judgment. It's saying there's something right or wrong. Now let's see if I turn it into an NVC. Let's start with an observation. I noticed it's hard to wake up the kids on Monday if they stay up past 9 p.m. on Sunday. This is what I prefer. I like the morning to be peaceful for everyone. I would also like them to easily wake up. Can we work together to get the kids into bed at 9 p.m.? As you can tell, these are not things that roll off the tongue, right? It takes strategizing. It takes space. It takes knowing the process and then implementing it in our day-to-day life. And sometimes we don't have the bandwidth. So the first place to start, if you want to play with this before we have our part 3, I highly recommend getting that feelings list. You can even look up on Google NVC emotions, NVC feelings, or you can email me to get it. And just start identifying your own feelings. Start identifying in your head others' feelings and see how you can begin to observe instead of judge in your day-to-day life. And so before we end here, I just want to share with you a little bit more about Inward Office. So we hold these monthly free classes. June and before, all of the classes were yoga ergo classes. So short, 30 minutes or less movement classes that help you get more range of motion in the areas that hurt when we're working at desks all day. And so if you want to get on that list, go to inwardoffice.com and you can sign up for notification list of those free 30-minute classes. If you want to join us for live virtual classes, there are 2 ways to do that. One is to have a corporate sponsorship. So your organization would sign up for our weeks of classes. It's Monday through Friday. Every week is a brand new live class. or you can sign up as the general public. You can see the links there. And then we also hold workshops that are scheduled with organizations, some freebies on our YouTube site and our SoundCloud site. So streamable meditations, and there are a couple full-length classes and a lot of snippets on YouTube. So I hope you can join us for the next class. Again, it's on inwardoffice.com/free class, or through this LinkedIn page, through the Inward Office page, you can sign up for the next one, which is happening in August. And so I thank you for joining and giving me your attention. And I look forward to the next time that we jump on here or you join our classes. Have a wonderful day. Again, my name's Marla. Bye-bye.